So tonight's sermon is an Ignatian sermon, which I do a couple times a year, where I have you imagine that you are someone who lived in the first century. So I think many of you know the drill by now. If you want to close your eyes, that helps. You do it. That's fine. It's also okay if you need to sleep, but it'll be good. So, whatever way you can be comfortable imagining, that's for you to decide. Imagine that you are a Judean living during the reign of Tiberius Caesar in the first century. You are an observant Jew and have always done your best to keep the commandments. Your home is in Hebron, a little over 20 miles from Jerusalem. And right now, you are traveling to Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover, the commemoration of your ancestors' escape from slavery in Egypt. You come every year and stay with your sister and her husband, but not last year. Your sister was soon to give birth to her third child. So you and your family celebrated the feast quietly together in Hebron. It was just as well. There had been turmoil in Jerusalem. The Romans, ever watchful for rebellions, large and small, had taken a man suspected of sedition prisoner and had crucified him, an all too common occurrence in Palestine. He had been popular with the people, so there was some unrest. Today is the day before Passover, the early afternoon of a dusty, hot day. You are very close to your sister's house, but your whole family is thirsty, so you stop at a well. A woman is drawing water. You think you may have met her before, so you approach her and say, "Pardon, but I believe we have been introduced. Are you not the wife of Clopas?" She gives you a look of recognition, smiles, and says, "Yes, I'm Mary. I met you at a gathering at your sister's home, 2 years ago? Have you come for Passover and to meet your sister's beautiful little daughter?" You smile, welcoming this opportunity to stop and chat. And Mary draws water for you and your family. It is a hot afternoon, so you all sit in the shade to rest a little. And you ask Mary about last year's Passover, wondering if there is likely to be another disturbance this year. Mary grows quiet, lowers her eyelids, and pauses. Slowly, she begins to speak. Things are quiet now, but as I look back on that time, I think of how sad those days were. I remember standing at the foot of the cross on which the son of my dear friend, also called Mary, hung. Her son was crucified. He was the one the Romans thought Sanhedrin and the Herod thought was a rebel. They suspected he was a man bent on overthrowing the great powers, but he was not a man of violence. He was a man of truth, a man who showed us through stories and signs and wonders of a better way to live our lives. He talked of love and forgiveness. He was generous and completely accepted us as we were, all the while asking us to be better than we were. He was betrayed to the Romans by one of his own followers and questioned by the high priest, Herod, and Pilate himself. They all wanted him to disappear, so he was beaten and spat upon, crowned with thorns, and made to carry his cross. I walked behind him and stood with his mother, her sister, our friend Mary Magdalene, and John, his only follower who stayed close to him until the end. I walked from Pilate's palace to Golgotha, the place of the skull. We followed Jesus. It was horrible for his mother. Her child, the baby she had nursed and loved, left bloody footprints along the road in front of us. He fell repeatedly and sometimes was given aid, but the soldiers were hard and brutal. Some of the people along the road hurled insults at him, but many of the women cried, wailed, and hid their faces in their hands. Jesus asked them not to cry for him. He told him it would better serve them to cry for themselves. You see, for many of them, he had been their promised Messiah. They believed he would overthrow the Romans. As we walked, I supported his mother on her right side. John was on her left. My memory of that walk is not clear. At the time, I felt as if we were surrounded by a dark, heavy cloud that made it difficult to breathe. I can't recall sounds or smells or much of what I saw. Grief enveloped me. When we arrived at Golgotha, the soldiers asked us to stand aside while they nailed Jesus to the crossbeam. They took his clothing and pounded the nails in. Then they lifted the beam and positioned it in the upright position of the cross, portion of the cross. It found its mark with a thud. The cross, Jesus, and we all shuddered. There was an inscription on the cross. It was written in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. A soldier told me Pilate had ordered them to put it there. It said, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. I knew Pilate didn't put it there to honor Jesus. It was his joke on the chief priests, who would find such a claim horrific. It was also a joke, most particularly on Herod Agrippa, who wanted nothing more than to possess that title, King of the Jews. So we stood there, just John and we women. The soldiers allowed us to come closer. We huddled together, not talking, quietly weeping. It was as if hope had fled the world. The soldiers had raised the cross at midday, and Jesus hung there for 3 hours. I feared for Mary. Her heart was ripping in two. Shortly before Jesus died, he looked with love at his mother and John and said, "Woman, here is your son." And then he looked at John and said, "Here is your mother." John caught his breath and tightened his arm around Mary's shoulders. He gently leaned his head against hers and began to sob. Jesus, though he was dying, though he was in agony, was making sure his mother would be taken care of. And I think he was asking all of us to take care of one another. Even as he was dying, he was teaching us how to love. It was a horrible day, though, the saddest day of my life. But the story doesn't end there. Come, I will walk with you to your sister's house. Freshen up from your journey, and all of you shall come to my house for dinner tonight. I will feed you with fish and olives, cheese, dates, good wine, and fresh bread. And I will feed you with the rest of the story. Amen.